North Dakota State gets it.
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. Go Hawks. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day. It is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thank you all very much, especially my everydayers, for helping make that the case. What does North Dakota State bring to the Mountain West? We shall dive into how it changes their playoff dynamic, and the Iowa schedule is both terrifying and also ridiculously easy. That's on today's show, which is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The winter games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with a bet on FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. I was yelling at a particular game yesterday. You might hear it in the voice. It's a Go Hawks type of day. I don't know who's feeling better, the 12s in the Pacific Northwest or the Bison faithful in Fargo. So North Dakota State is going to join the Mountain West as a football-only member starting this year. I had not heard, read, seen tweets about nothing. This kind of came out of nowhere. Boom. And when I said to begin the show, North Dakota State gets it, I'm saying they understand the landscape, and they've also accomplished just about everything there is to accomplish at the FCS level. This is a program that once won 5 straight national championships and 8 in a 9-year span. If you thought Alabama under Nick Saban was some kind of dynasty, that was small potatoes compared to what North Dakota State has done at the FCS level. And they end on a note that's not a national championship, but those fans I don't think really care. So what I think North Dakota State did here, and they are making what seems like a borderline desperate move here to get themselves into the FBS ranks, is they're recognizing that there is a lot of chaos, that there's been a shift, that all this stuff is happening, and there's an opportunity to level up. And I think they watched what James Madison did this year and said, we can do that. And they absolutely can. More on that later. North Dakota State is paying $17 million. This is an FCS school, a darn good one. I've said for a long time, they are an FBS program masquerading as an FCS school. They are now going to leap up and join the Mountain West, which geographically makes plenty of sense. They bring a strong brand to the league, a level of pedigree as well. It's not just, oh, you're adding an FCS school. You can readily make the case, even with their one national championship, this is a far more high-profile move for the Mountain West than James Madison going to the Sun Belt was. But I think the Bison administration looked at what was happening with their former FCS counterparts across the country and said, we can do that. There's an opportunity here. We can go out and get it. NIU is going to be a football-only member of the Mountain West in 2026. They paid $2 million to get there because that was a move of convenience. And if you're the Mountain West, well, if you're going to get paid, and they're not getting all of that money exactly, but if there's money on the table, if it's not really costing you anything, well, of course you go out and add a program like North Dakota State. But the Bison could become an incredibly fast riser in the FBS ranks. This is a program that knows how to win, that produces NFL caliber guys. Anybody watch my Seahawks on Sunday? Go Hawks. Both starting offensive linemen at center and left guard are from North Dakota State. Trey Lance, once a top 5 pick in the NFL draft, didn't work out, came from North Dakota State. This is not just a program that was able to win at a lower level of football. The guys that they have had over the years, those are just a handful of examples. There are many others. The guys they've had over the years could have just changed the teams on their schedule, gone out to maybe even a Power 4 league and competed certainly in a group of 5. A couple years ago, Colorado was opening with North Dakota State at home. I think they were about a touchdown and a half-point favorite, 7.5. And there were a lot of folks who had that as a trendy sort of upset pick. They were an FCS program at the time. Even though Colorado hadn't been anything for quite a long time, guess what? That's just what North Dakota State can do. A Power 4 team on the road, and you're only a 7.5-point dog. Everybody knows what the Bison are, what they bring to the table. But to be willing to go $17 million out of pocket, $5 million fee to change from the FCS to the FBS, and $12 million to be a part of the Mountain West, it seems a little desperate. Maybe that's calendar related. Maybe that's conference related, though NIU would indicate not as much. I think if they hadn't won so much, if they'd been really successful, like let's take Montana State, who just won their first FCS national championship for the first time since, I believe, 1984. The Bobcats have been a wildly successful program. I talked about Montana and their head coach Bobby Houck resigning recently here on the show. Those two programs have been really good in arguably the best conference in the country at the FCS level in the Big Sky. So I think that those programs are less inclined to make the jump because you can't have a sense of complacency when you've barely or not won championships. They've been really good, contending, competing, getting all the way to the title game. North Dakota State has been running not just their conference, but the entire sport at that level for a really long time. And this is not the first time this has been speculated about, because the Bison making the jump makes all the sense in the world. There's no FBS program in the Dakotas. This is a football-only move, so the other sports can stay in the conferences that they're in, which, again, makes plenty of sense because I don't think the other ones are as readily transferable to go up to a much higher level of competition. The football team obviously is. And I think there's probably a sense of, hey, if not now, when? And we've kind of done everything here that we can do. How many more national championships can you win? They've won 10 of the last 15. No one's taken those away. No one was questioning whether or not they were legit or the methods by which they went about doing it. No, they played old school, power eye football, ran it down your throat, and they were just darn good at it for a really long time. And now they see an opportunity, and they saw James Madison. Whatever you thought of the Dukes getting into the playoff, G5 teams getting in every year. Doesn't have to be a conference champion now. Remember that rule. But they saw them playing in the college football playoff at Autzen Stadium. And yeah, they got their teeth kicked in. But North Dakota State probably looked at that game and said, we can play tougher than that. We can be better than that. If we're in a conference that gets us more money, that gets us more exposure, more access to higher level recruits, then guess what? We can play at that sort of level. We can compete and try to go to the playoff. I think you could see North Dakota State as a G5 college football playoff team within 5 years. I think that's an incredibly reasonable expectation. But they sense the landscape. They are fully committed to it. They've done everything they can really do at the FCS level. It makes all the sense in the world, and it gives the Mountain West an even number of 10 teams starting this season to play college football. So leave your thoughts in the YouTube comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, however you want to get in touch. Where does it leave the Mountain West? What is that conference now? That's coming up next. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for the events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. So maybe you are hooked, or want to be, on the drama of curling matches that start slow and somehow get intense really fast. Or maybe you were dialed into FanDuel going into the Super Bowl when the Seahawks covered the 4.5-point line, which I've got the receipts to prove it. I had Seahawks 27-13. They win 29-13, of course. whatever you want to make more exciting. The crazy late comeback on the PGA Tour on Sunday. I mean, there are a lot of things to bet upon over at FanDuel. So make sure you check it out. FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. No question in my mind that North Dakota State strengthens the Mountain West's profile as a group of 6 conference. I think it's going to be incredibly challenging for one of these teams to make their way to the college football playoff this year. In the coming years, yes, it can help. And JMU's success is the blueprint you're looking for if you are a generic Mountain West fan. You know, you got the Rob Lowe hat on, but instead of NFL, where the Seahawks are Super Bowl champions, by the way, you've got the Mountain West logo on it. For those who have not memorized all the shuffling of teams, the 10 football playing members for the Mountain West in 2026 will be as follows. Air Force, Hawaii, who had a nice season this past year. Don't sleep on the Rainbow Warriors there. Nevada, New Mexico, Northern Illinois, football only, North Dakota State, San Jose State, UNLV, UTEP, and Wyoming. Having UNLV in there is so big. I talked about that recently on the show. Gloria Nevarez deserves a big-time pat on the back from the Mountain West fans for keeping UNLV around. And when they announced their media rights contract, of course, that became fully finalized. But the Rebels being there with the season they had, being in the conference championship game last year again against Boise State, you've got Dan Mullen. There's certainly a pedigree to UNLV football. And I didn't think I would have said that when I began hosting this particular program. So that group of teams is certainly respectable, capable, fun league in the eyes of television networks, as we saw with the deal, still waiting on the Pac-12's media rights deal to get fully announced for how much they're paying to each team. There's certainly a comparability. A lot of the same television partners re-upped with the Mountain West after they went after the Pac-12, which has a lot of former Mountain West schools, which told me, well, they still see some level of value in these programs, and that's a very good thing if you're a fan of any of these Mountain West teams. You got Jason Eck at New Mexico as well. There's some interesting teams. I still think there's going to be an uphill battle for the league. North Dakota State absolutely helps you, and they're going to be one of the most fascinating stories to track in this 2026 season, because if they go full James Madison, who went to a league that I don't think is quite as good as even this version of the Mountain West, JMU went up from the FCS to FBS, no drop off. I mean, they just kept rolling along, and look at them now. We're in the college football playoff, Sun Belt champions. They were undefeated, aside from that game against Louisville, of course. But what the Dukes were able to do there was remarkably impressive. Not unprecedented, but also not a consistent theme, because this is the other thing. And I tend to think North Dakota State is going to be closer to what James Madison was to the Sun Belt than some of these other moves. You know, Sam Houston State, for instance, they made this jump recently. Hasn't gone incredible. New Mexico State has made the jump. It's gone much better for them. And there are others out there. Kennesaw State as well. They haven't burst onto the scene. The difference, of course, being Sam Houston State did have a football national championship in the several years, in one of the years leading up to their departure from the WAC going to Conference USA. And they haven't made a ton of noise there as a football program in the last few years. North Dakota State has operated at such a high level with such a high level of talent, such a great level of coaching. They're bringing their head coach back. There were some rumors, discussions. He kind of explored his options, but he's re-upped, and you know he's aware of how to win football games. I don't think North Dakota State in this new look Mountain West, I don't know that I would put them any lower than maybe fifth. Maybe fifth. I think UNLV's got to be at the top of that list for me. I think Hawaii deserves some respect with the season they just had. New Mexico deserves a lot. it's not that other programs aren't capable of flashing up. Air Force has been a very high floor program for a very long time. By the way, just envision this for a moment. Flash forward in your mind to a time in late November where the North Dakota State Bison are traveling to Air Force, which is in the great state of Colorado, and it's 8 degrees and snowing. This is a beautiful scene, a beautiful sight, and one that I hope comes to fruition in 2026 and beyond and every year. That's, chef's kiss. That is the good stuff right there. If you like smash mouth football, where the team that runs for more yards has about a 100 to 99% chance of winning the football game. So I think there are a few that should be ahead of them. The other ones you can certainly debate. And, these FCS to FBS jumps, whether you're talking about players or whether you're talking about programs, some just make that change way better than others. And I think there's a similarity, but also a big difference when you're talking about one individual player. Like Cam Ward's the most famous, probably recent FCS to FBS transfer who made the transition very well. He also had a bit of an adjustment period when he was at Washington State. And I don't think there's going to be quite the same level of adjustment for North Dakota State. I also don't think they're going to just roll in and win the Mountain West Championship in year one. I think that is asking a lot even for a program as proud and as successful as the Bison have been for such a long time. But when you look at the Group of Six landscape and how these conferences are going to push for that college football playoff spot that'll go to the highest ranked G6 team every single year, I think North Dakota State has the ability to come in with a winning pedigree and a very strong brand, which we know matters a lot when you're dealing with a subjective sport like college football, and boost it. I don't think it's revolutionary. If they were that appealing or that ready, they might have wound up in an even bigger conference. But going to the Mountain West, yeah, I'd put the Mountain West probably third as a football league going into next year. I think he still lost a ton, including your 3-time reigning champions in Boise State to the Pac-12, who've now got Oregon State and Washington State, and I'm pretty high on what Kirby Moore is going to be able to do up in Pullman. Coug fans are just hoping that he sticks around, and he's their third head coach in 3 years, of course. But I think what the Mountain West has here is another leg up, just another separator. I would have had them third before North Dakota State got there. I think they just kind of widen the gap between them and the Sun Belt, which is a solid league, and them in MAC and Conference USA, which I think are at the bottom of the G6. But I think the Mountain West is solidly third. I think the Pac-12 and the American are still at the top. And how their conference championships get graded, how their schedules get graded, and how things go in conference play, that's all going to play out because we've got a new conference for the committee to evaluate. But I think it helps. It cannot hurt. There's no downside here for the Mountain West. You've got an even number of members at 10. You got a program that could come in and win. And even if they don't win a conference championship right away, I think you're still moving in a positive direction. And when you have all this chaos and madness, and it is realignment season once again, you just have to find a way to go forward. Get on the yellow brick road and start making your way to the Emerald City. You might not be there yet, but you at least want to be on the path. A move like this keeps the Mountain West on the path. When their literal existence was threatened, North Dakota State is a good addition. So we're going to move off that for a while. There will be plenty more on that coming this week. I have a mountain of thoughts. I did want to talk about Iowa because Iowa's schedule is the most Jekyll and Hyde thing I have ever seen in the Big Ten. First, this episode brought to you by our friends at Wayfair. The new year's here, and it's the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. If you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how it looks and feels. That's why you should turn to Wayfair. It's a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. From bedding and mattresses to storage solutions for every room, Wayfair makes it easy to start the year fresh. Wayfair has everything you need for a full home refresh, all in one place. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, or upgrading your work from home setup, something I relate to. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and budget. Some places might only give you one. It's going to fit your budget, but they don't have the sort of options you need. One place might fit your style, but not the price range you were hoping for. Wayfair is the perfect blend of both. So get organized, refreshed, and back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. Hiring isn't just about finding someone willing to take the job. It's about finding the right person with the right background who can actually help your business move forward. And if you want candidates who match what you're looking for, Indeed Sponsored Jobs is the move. Because instead of hoping the right person stumbles across your post, Indeed helps you match with quality candidates by boosting your job listing to the people who fit your specific criteria, like skills, certification, location, just to name a few. Kind of like how Mike McDonald was the perfect hire for the Seattle Seahawks, and he's led them to a Super Bowl championship in his second year as the head coach. John Schneider, the GM, knew what he was looking for, and Indeed is going to help you find the candidates that you need for your position. Here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. I talked about Penn State's schedule last week and why I feel like the Nittany Lions with Matt Campbell there are going to win more games in the regular season this year, 6, than they did last year. I still feel that way. My opinion hasn't changed since I recorded that show on Thursday night. Iowa, on the other hand, has got every chance with their schedule to go to the college football playoff. Every opportunity is right there in front of him for Kirk Ferentz. Still doing it. The reason I bring up Iowa today is not just because I've wanted to talk about their schedule because it's so fascinating, but also in light of the North Dakota State move, I think North Dakota State very easily can resemble Iowa. Not in the Big Ten, of course, but in the Mountain West. That program that's just really high floor, maybe not the ceiling of everybody else. Great fan support, cold weather team. North Dakota State plays in a dome. Iowa, of course, does not at Kinnick Stadium. The parallels there are just interesting to know. Iowa's schedule in 2026 goes like this. They open with NIU. That's Mountain West member NIU, mind you. Then they play Iowa State. This, by the way, Iowa's schedule every year is among my favorites because I know they're going to play 9 conference games, and I know they're going to play an in-state rivalry game that is a Power 4 non-conference matchup. The battle for the Cy-Hawk Trophy. I love it. I really, really love it. So you'll never hear me rip Iowa's schedule on here because as long as Iowa State is there, you're good. Iowa State, 9 Big Ten games, you're good. You don't get my wrath in that particular world. So they play Iowa State. That game is at home. Then they play Northern Iowa. So 3 straight at Kinnick. Okay, then Big Ten play begins. And there's this scene in the show American Dad, some of you may or may not have seen before. And Stan walks in, and Roger, the alien, is kind of smack-talking him. And then Stan whacks him with a chair. The Big Ten whacked Iowa with a chair to start conference play. There's no buy-in this time. They will have every chance to earn themselves a trip to the college football playoff. They start at Michigan, then they play Ohio State, and then they play at Washington. I mean, did you say something mean about a member of Tony Petitti's family? And what did you do to deserve this utter madness? I mean, woof. So, I'm just realizing as I'm recording the show, I forgot which one's the bad guy, Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde. Okay, I'm going to have to get back to you on that. Whichever the bad one is, that's the bad part. Then Iowa has a bye, and in the second half, yes, I did a lot of yelling during the Super Bowl. I was very excited. Then in the second part of their schedule, some teams, Penn State, Indiana, you're not going to watch for about the first month of the season. There's none of that with Iowa. None of it. USC schedule until Big Ten play, not going to be really worth watching. But in the first 5 games, Iowa's going to have Iowa State at Michigan, Ohio State at Washington. Man, that's something. Then they have a bye. Then they go at Minnesota, Wisconsin, at Northwestern, Purdue, at Illinois, Nebraska. This could be one of those start the season off 3-3, make a push at the end of the year, be 9-3, and get some backdoor into the playoff conversations there. Now, last year, I didn't think Iowa was going to be very good. They were a much better team than I expected, to be sure. This is among the most unique Big Ten schedules I've ever seen. If you're an Iowa fan, I imagine you'd want this spread out. You don't want to play at Michigan, host Ohio State back-to-back weeks before you go at Washington. You know, the only team to win at Husky Stadium in Big Ten play? Oregon was in the playoff. Ohio State was in the playoff. That happened this year. If memory serves, which it does here, Washington's been in the Big Ten for 2 years. So that's been a very difficult place to go to and win. I would want those spread out a little bit more. Just let you breathe a little bit. Let you get your head above water. Good luck with the Kirk Ferentz has got to have the guys ready to go from the start. You get a tune-up game against NIU, and then it's time to roll. I don't think I can pick Iowa to the playoff, at least not right now. So I'll be expecting a strongly worded message from a one Trent Condon of Locked On Hawkeyes. But that is the price I pay for hosting this show. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.